All right, you radio collectors, builders, experimenters, repairmen, listen up. I'm saying this radio might be the hardest radio to work on. Now, in this case, this radio has sat since World War II, and it was somebody's shelf queen. And I did manage to find down in this RF amplifier section, right in here. My nails are going to be long. Watch out. Uh, there was some screws missing, and in other places. So someone did start to open this thing up and make some and do some adjustments or measurements. Didn't see any evidence of being changed. Now, anything being changed. Uh, as we know, these capacitors are all going to be bad. These are a 3-section 0.1 microfarad capacitor. They're used for the plate and screen grid bypass. These are micromold. These are 0.1s. These are all going to be bad. Now, as far as the red color mica mold, some of them, ones I've tested, they've tested good. And I've left them in. I tested them both at high voltage breakdown and for the value. Right. So now, what's been going on? All right. Now, I redid this tube deck. Oh, let's get me in the frame, it in the frame. This tube deck recapped. After I did that, I didn't. The stations didn't get any louder. So then I went down and I took these 3 cans down here apart, and these are first RF amp, which goes to the tube up here. This one goes with this tube up here, which then goes on this tuning cap here. Go ahead, fall. I don't care. But these are RF amp. In here is the selector switch for the bands. The band coils are in here, and the band coils go to this tuning capacitor up on top here. All right, and this tuning cap has 4 sections, which it should be a really dynamite radio. One of the things that's happening is over here. I can't. My light. Maybe you can see one. Let me see if we can see that. That bolt back there. There's rubber shock absorbers. The tuning capacitor sits on rubber shock absorbers, and most of that's so when you turn the dial and work in the gears, there is a tiny bit of play to allow the gears to mesh, but no binding. So those rubber bushings, we'll call them bushings, they're rotted out, which is very common in old radios. Now, after I redid these, make sure I'm in the frame, these 4 modules down here, or 3 modules, when I put the antenna up here on these 3 tubes, let me get it in the frame. First RF amp, second RF mixer. If you put the antenna here, the station will be the loudest, not as loud, really low. That's the way you should see that. All right. As the signal goes towards the antenna, there's more gain at the antenna than at the mixer. It'll still find the strong stations down here. It wasn't doing that. If I moved the antenna between these 3 tubes before I did this section down here, I would get the same amount of volume. And I knew right away, it's working, but not correctly. Now, I couldn't get WEEU, which is 830 kilohertz. So I went back and went into my first detector. It looks like an IF can, but they call it a detector. And this comes off the mixer. And I was turning this tuning slug, or it's a tuning slug. I wasn't getting any oomph, and I had changed the capacitors in that unit. They were 0.01s. They were both bad. There are some micromold 100 and 120 in there, which I can't get at without taking that all apart. But I opened it back up again, and I noticed a wire that had been wrapped around a terminal but never soldered since the day the radio was made. And when I was flexing stuff, it was cutting in and out the station. So I soldered that. I noticed I did get EEU now, and I still have low gain on the entire band. Now, the last thing I have was when I flex the radio, the signal comes and it disappears. So that could be another wire that's wrapped around the terminal, not soldered, or it could be something that's touching ground when you flex the radio. So that's tomorrow's nightmare. But I have gone through this. This is the oscillator for the thing. I made sure that didn't drop out when I went down in frequency. I might be repeating myself because this is the third time I'm doing this video because I kept getting IF and RF mixed up. I do that, but it was really bad, so let me redo it. But you can see this cap's been replaced. This is it here. I might be repeating myself on some of this because I've done this video. This is the third try on this one. But, you know, every day I work on this a little bit. And to take those three modules apart, first RF amp, second RF, and mixer. And they correspond to the top three tubes, which are up here, a little bit higher. And that works with the tuning cap. So what's down in these modules are the coils for the four bands. And you can adjust each coil so when the capacitor turns, it tracks. And that's how these radios work. But I wasn't seeing any of that. Nothing was really, I was getting stations, but nothing was really like tuning, except the main tuning. But when I moved these, they had no effect. And the same with the, when I was putting the antenna up here on the first RF amp, and along here, I got the same amount of signal on all three. And then once I went down, I took all the 0.1s out of this units, and I did show you that I did them. It improved it. The radio's coming along, but it's not worth it at this point. Now, anybody else with a shotgun would take this thing out in the field and shoot it. It's that bad. That's because, you know, I keep saying 70 years old. It's 80-something years old. And all your connections to ground have oxidized. And I'm finding this stuff. But it's a deep, deep pit. You know, it's like a real old junker car that's been rusting out in the woods. And you bring it home and you get it to start up. But that's as far as you're going to go with that car. You know, they do. There's a lot of those videos. It's been sitting in a field for 20 years. Will it start? What's the point? You start it up. It's going to need brakes, brake shoes. Underneath's all rotted out. It's going to need some welding. It's going to need a muffler system. Starting a motor up on a tractor or a lawnmower doesn't really prove anything. You get the motor to run, but then you find out on the lawnmower the main bearing for the blade, which depending on the mower how it's made, that's shot. You know, the handle's all rusted out. That's going to break, and that's where this radio's at. It's got a lot wrong with it, but if you look at it, you go, gee, this is really in good shape. But electronically, it's not. I found all the capacitors, certain types, they're going to be bad, and that's what I'm working through. And I work a little bit at a time, you know. And you do a video and put it in there to help the next person. And then when you get done with it, you're reviewing it and you're saying RF instead of IF instead of RF. And I got a comment from a guy this morning. I had a piece of glass upside down when I was showing how to put a hinge on it. It's for the fish tank. I was showing how to put the hinge on the glass. You know, I did several takes to get that on and to make sure that the tongue depressor wooden pieces, open that up. And it was all about how to get that hinge on the glass without breaking it or cutting yourself. It wasn't about, he goes, you had it upside down. Of course, when I clicked on his name, he has no videos. People that don't do videos have no clue how many times it can go wrong. I had one video I did post where the voice goes really slow like that. What the hell causes that? You know, I get a video done and the whole section of it just goes slow. It speeds up. Meanwhile, it's the only thing running on the computer. Was the what's it called? The stupid Logitech camera. But this is the stuff I have to go through, and there's probably going to be one person this is gonna help, showing what sections and all that. Plus, the person has to bring something to the table, and I'm telling them as they work on it, don't kill yourself on this radio because it's really hard. I've taken this tube shelf in and out, I think 7 times. My intermittent might be under there. I might have done it, but the other intermittent was someone never soldered a wire since the day it's been made. I think that's it. It's not, right? That's it.